and welcome to The Guitar Effect. My name's Rob. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about pairing the NUX Amp Academy with the NUX Cerberus for a direct gigging rig, I guess you'd say. And before I do, I'd ask you to please like and subscribe and hit the notifications bell so you can be kept up to date every time I put out a new video. So this is going to be a really quick intro, right? Basically, I'll stick a photo of the Cerberus up here and the Amp Academy up here. I made a video about the Amp Academy not long ago, and I've made 2 videos, maybe even 3, about the Cerberus. The reason I bought the Amp Academy was because I liked the Cerberus so much that I wanted to try another piece of NUX's gear. I was actually really impressed with the sound of the Amp Academy, but really disappointed with the functionality. Since I made that video, I've had a few comments clearing up some of those functionality issues I was having. And even with those fixes, it hasn't worked for me. The fixes didn't work. They didn't solve the scenes problem for me. A lot of the software problems are still there. But I wanted to try it with the NUX Cerberus. Now, a while ago, I made a video using the NUX Cerberus as a direct rig, but with the American Sound preamp by Joyo, which is just a really cheap but super popular Fender in a box pedal, and that I put on the board and then use the cab sim or IOR loader in the actual Cerberus itself. That rig worked really, really well for me. And the American Sound is like €30 compared to 200 for the Amp Academy. So I wanted to try using a more expensive modeler in the same situation to see what a difference it would make. I get into that in the audio description, and I'll leave my conclusion about that until the end of the video. But yeah, I've always really loved the Cerberus. I think it's really well thought out. It's really affordable. I think it's a really, really great, I was going to say backup rig, but to be honest with you, I think it's a pretty good choice. It's just a straight ahead pedal board for doing, I can't do my originals band with it. It doesn't have a octaver. It doesn't have, delay and reverb to the quality I would really, really like. It has really good delay and reverb, but just not as good as the HX effects or whatever. But as a straight ahead, pop rock guitar player's pedalboard rig, I think it's pretty good. It doesn't have the ability to name presets, which kind of makes presets a little bit redundant to me once you get past 4 or 8. It's in banks of 4 servers. I'd like to be able to name my presets, but other than that, it's a pretty amazing unit, especially for the money that you pay for it. So I thought pairing it with the Amp Academy could be really interesting. So that's kind of the intro. Let's have a listen to those 2 together now. Okay, so first of all, setup is pretty as you'd expect, right? So I'm playing this Cort 335 copy, which I really like for covers because a number of reasons. It has a really balanced sound. It can do a lot of different things. And then I'm going straight into the Cerberus. I've bypassed the tuner on this occasion. Straight into the Cerberus. And then the way it's wired is the guitar goes into the input of the Cerberus, and then the what is effectively the effects send goes into the input of the Amp Academy. Then the effects return goes into the effects return of the Cerberus goes into the effects send of the Academy, and then the output of the Cerberus goes into the effects return of the Amp Academy, and then the output of the Amp Academy goes into the interface on my computer. So I'm playing direct here. And the reason I do that is, what that allows me to do is go guitar, boost, overdrive, distortion from the Cerberus, then from there to go preamp of the Amp Academy, then back into the Cerberus through the modulation, delay and reverb, then back into the Amp Academy, where I then have the speaker simulation and, by the way, the reverb that's on board on the Amp Academy, right? So which has a signal chain set up exactly as I would have it set up in real life. So pre-effects, preamp, post-effects, output to speaker, okay? Right, that's the first thing. So having the effects loop allows me to set up the signal chain correctly on the Amp Academy, okay? And the Cerberus combined, I guess. Then the other thing is, obviously, I'm not making this video to demonstrate the capacity of the Amp Academy. I'm trying to see what is the benefit of using the Amp Academy in this situation. And what I mean by that is, so the Amp Academy, say, is €200, okay? As I've mentioned before, I've made another video where I use the exact same thing, but with the Joyo American sound, which is €30. So you can do the same thing with the Joyo American sound. So I'm saying, what is the benefit here of using the Amp Academy instead of the American sound? If the Amp Academy had MIDI, the benefits would be far greater, because as I changed patches on the Cerberus, it could change the preset that I'm pulling up on the Amp Academy, which would be a lot easier and simpler. And as I've mentioned before, it does have MIDI, but only via USB, so I would need some sort of MIDI to USB converter, which you can get. But to me, I don't love the Amp Academy enough, or the Cerberus enough, in truth, to the extent that I would need to go out and spend more money on this pedal board. So what I'm just demonstrating is, without using that, what are the benefits of using the Amp Academy over the American sound? Okay, so the way I have this set up, first of all, is on the pedal cam here, I have 4 presets. I have 1D, 1C, 1B, and 1A. And they are going backwards, by the way. And the reason I say that is, on a real pedal board, you wouldn't have clean, dirty, heavy, and lead. You would have clean, dirty, heavy, and lead running that way. At least I would. So that's why I use the switches in the reverse order for the presets. And they are basically clean, like crunchy, edge of clean, dirty, like a rock sound. And then this last one is like a 90s preset, okay? So starting with the clean, what I do here is I leave the blue scene on, this scene here, as you can see, on the Amp Academy, which is the 4x10 Fender amp. I can't remember what it's called now. It's not the Vibrolux. It's the can't remember what the amp is called, but it's not the Vibrolux, it's not the Twin, it's the other Fender one that has the 410-inch speakers. It's basically a 410 blackface, and I just prefer that slightly to the Twin. And here's what that sounds like. So neck pickup. You can hear there's a little bit of reverb there. That's coming from the Amp Academy, and that's really important. So that's my like always on ambient reverb. And as you can see, if I really dig in, it's a little bit dirty, but in a pretty pleasing way. But on the neck, can get a little bit dirty, but mostly when I'm playing in this patch, I'll be playing in the neck or middle pickups, right? So what I do then is I hit this switch of the active preset, which turns the preset into edit mode. And what that does is allows me to have the drive, distortion, modulation, delay effect set up particular to this preset, but accessible on the switches. Okay, so what that means is I can have, say, a big reverb in this preset, but I don't have a big reverb in the next preset, for example. I can have a chorus and a modulation. On the modulation section, I can have a certain distortion, certain drive setting that are particular to this preset for the songs I'm going to want to use it for. Now, that's great. You can do that with the American sound as well. So where the Amp Academy helps here a little bit is, and it is better than the American sound, it's no question. That amp model is a nicer sounding amp model than the amp simulation that comes from the American sound. To try and like put some sort of perspective on it, I guess it's nicer by about 20%. Okay, so moving on. What are the effects I have in this preset? So, and also, by the way, the Amp Academy allows me to run reverb here, as I said. So starting out, I have a boost. So if I'm playing something clean and I want to do a clean solo, I have a clean boost to hand. That clean boost, by the way, is the same for every preset, and it's controlled by a small knob on the back of the Cerberus, which is great. Then I have an overdrive, which gives me kind of a bluesy overdrive. Okay, I also have a distortion, and this is set up to be a fluid lead sound. Okay, then I have Together, if I hit this switch, it turns on a tremolo and a chorus. I can just have a chorus, because this extra foot switch is set up to turn on and off in every patch the reverb. Sorry, this one is a reverb and this one is the extra modulation effect. So this is just tremolo. And then this last switch here turns on a delay. It's a really small, short, quick delay. It's the analog delay. So I have all those effects at my feet. Oh yeah, and then this one's really important. This is a huge reverb. So a couple of different things I would use these different effects for. So starting off with that reverb, I turn on the tremolo, the boost, and this would be for Wicked Game by Chris Isaak. That will be for the intro, and then I turn off the boost for the verses. So that's using that clean amp model. It gives me a big reverb and a tremolo. Another thing I might do is for a super kind of saccharine-y sweet piece, I'll turn on the chorus, switch to the middle setting. Okay, and then I could do some atmospheric sounding stuff with the delay. And also then I have a drive should I need it. So yeah, and then the great thing is it breaks up a little bit like. So this clean preset would handle a lot of the kind of popular stuff that we would do. Okay, so then if I go back into the preset mode, which I'm already in here, and I switch to 1C, this is my like dirty preset. Now, in an ideal world, MIDI would tell the Amp Academy to pull up the next preset, but it doesn't. So I then have to hit scene as well to bring up the next scene. And this is where I do feel the Amp Academy gives you a little bit of benefit here, because it's now in a slightly dirty amp. And this is for the kind of in-between clean and dirty sounds. And that's with no effects on. So what are the effects I have in here? Again, I have a drive pedal, a distortion pedal, again, that would typically be my lead sound for any of the songs. Again, I have a chorus and tremolo. Mainly use that chorus for Under Pressure by Queen. Slightly different chorus settings, which is a great thing about the edit mode. That's a different chorus than I was using on the first preset that works better with an overdrive sound. And it's more 70s kind of sounding. And then on the last, on the delay switch here, I have a U2 style delay, right? Sorry. Then when I want to play the lead section in that, I have either the overdrive or the distortion to turn to. Pretty capable, you know, set of sounds there. So I'll come out of this preset by holding the switch again, and I go back to 1D, and this is where I get into the more sort of rocky stuff by hitting scene again to come up to the equivalent sound. Excuse me, the equivalent sound from the Amp Academy. As you can see, with MIDI this would be so less fiddly, and this gets me my rock sound. So I'd use this for like 70s rock. It's a great rock sound, you know? That's like the rock sound, and then the different things I have happening in there, kind of similar. There's a drive sound. Focus, there's a distortion sound, which I wouldn't use because that would be too much for this. There's a delay for playing leads. And that's kind of all you need with that sound. And then the last preset I use, I go back to the clean amp on 1A. I hit edit. Right, and this is where I come to do the 90s kind of grungy stuff. So they mostly use clean amps. Back to the clean amp. I have a big chorus, so turn off that tremolo. I also have a reverb again, which I use for Zombie. I'll show you in a sec, but for Lithium. And here I have a huge distortion setup for that 90s kind of grunge sound. So as I mentioned, I also use this for Zombie, in which case I turn on the big reverb, leave the chorus on. So, there you go. Like, what is the benefit of the Amp Academy? Now, you could do all of this using the overdrive and distortion from the unit instead of using different gain staging from the Amp Academy. So what I mean is you could put the American sound down, have one sound on the American sound, use the amp or the cabinet simulation on the Cerberus, and have a great direct sound, as I demonstrated in the other video. This just allows you to have external reverb, so you can use reverb on the Cerberus for a big effect when you need it, and not always have you have two reverbs basically. You can have an always on ambient nice reverb, and then you can use reverb on the Cerberus for effect. Because the American sound doesn't have onboard reverb, you can't do that. And then secondly, it allows you to use 3 different amp models when you need them, or 6, I guess, but I'm not even going to get into switching to the B channel on the Amp Academy because it just sends the scenes into switching, rearranging themselves in a way that I just can't cope with. So, do I think you need this? No, I don't. I think you can do a perfectly good job with the American sound using the onboard IR loader in the Cerberus. Is it better? Yes, it gives you more options. Does it make it all more fiddly? Yes, because you've got to switch scenes and presets at the same time. So will I be keeping the setup? Probably not. It's probably more than I need, and I can probably sell the Amp Academy and buy another piece of gear to review. I don't need it in the setup. But yeah, I think, it does give some extra options. So worth looking at maybe. So there you go. I think this is a pretty quick video really. Yes, the Amp Academy does work well, giving the different amp options with the different presets on the Cerberus. The fact that you can't make the Cerberus change the Amp Academy literally drives me batty. I just put MIDI on it. Especially since, by the way, the NUX tape machine delay has MIDI in on the side of it. So just change. They just should have put MIDI on it. Anything that has presets that are not accessible via MIDI, really, I just don't. Lots of people use MIDI, put MIDI on the thing. If it had MIDI, I think it would be a far better choice than the American sound. It does sound significantly better than the American sound, but however, I feel the American sound sounds good enough. And I think that's a huge thing. If you're out gigging, the American sound as an amp sim with an IR after it sounds and feels perfectly good enough to gig with, in my opinion, through PA. This sounds better, it has more options, it's got reverb on board, which in this situation is very, very helpful. But I don't think it's needed. I think you completely get away by putting the American sound on there and using the IR loader from the Cerberus. And I'm probably being a little bit swayed by that, by the fact that I'm not mad about the Amp Academy. Like I said, I love the sound of it, but the functionality of it literally drives me mental. So try it, see if you think if it works. I think the two of them work well together, but it only works as well as any other amp modeler would in that situation, in my opinion. So there you go. This will probably be my last video about the Amp Academy. I don't think I'll be keeping it. So if you want to know more about it, watch the previous video. I'll go through all the different sounds and everything. And I love the Cerberus, so I will be keeping that. So if you've gotten this far, as always, I say thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe if you had. Any questions or comments about the content of this video, throw them in the comment section below. And I will see you in another video again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.